Welcome back. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how to apply a gradient to an object in Inkscape. And why don't we go ahead and start by drawing a circle. And we have a blue circle here, and I'm going to move it to the center. And what I want to do is apply a gradient, which means that it will fade from one color into another color. So it's a technique that's used in computer graphics quite often, and it gives a nice design effect, and it can also be used to achieve shading to make your object look 3D, for example. So to apply a gradient to this circle, there's various methods for doing this. One is to use this gradient tool down here. So I will click on that, and I can just click and drag across my object, and you'll see that it's applying a gradient, and this particular gradient is fading from blue to transparent. So it looks like it's fading to white, but don't let that trick you. In this case, it's actually fading to transparent, and if we look at the tool options at the top, you can see the checkerboard that's showing through, and those checkers are just representing just a see-through region. Okay, so if we want to fade from blue to, say, another solid color, we can click on Edit to edit this gradient, and you can see here which gradient is applied. Right now it's fading from blue to see-through, and each of these are represented by a stop. So the blue is represented as one stop, and the transparency is represented as a second stop. Let's choose the second stop, and let's say we want to fade to red. So down here there's various ways to select a color, and I like using the color wheel. So I'm going to point over to the reds and just drag over there. And you'll notice that it's still looking a little bit faded, and that's because this transparency slider, or alpha slider, is slid all the way to the left. So if we bump that all the way to the right, we have it fading from a solid blue to a solid red. And you can see that representation up here. Again, we have a first stop of blue and a second stop of red, and these settings are applied to the circle object here. So after you've created your gradient, you can still grab these handles, and maybe I want the gradient to go from top to bottom, or vice versa. So there's a lot of creativity that you can apply with this tool here. For example, creating sunsets, or just some general shading. Let's say that we want to fade this from blue to black. I can easily grab this color chooser, and now it looks like there's light shining down on a sphere, and it has some shading on the bottom. Why don't we just create a quick little circle on the bottom, and to finish this shading effect, and I'm going to drop this oval to the bottom of the stack. So I'll use my arrow tool and go to the tool options and lower it to the bottom. This should be review, by the way. And I will change this circle. I'm going to close the gradient editor right now so it doesn't confuse us. Change this circle to black, and then I will go ahead and go into the fill and stroke properties, object properties, and blur that just a little bit, and maybe lower the opacity. So I'm using a combination of blurring and opacity to achieve this shading effect here. And I want to just play around with that a bit until you get it to the right effect. So it looks somewhat realistic to you. And there you have it. Not the best job in the world, but you get the idea. Okay, so that is gradients in Inkscape, and I'm sure that you will put this tool to some good use.